Now, you may have missed it, but in the last few days there has been plenty of discussion around the incident between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton at Monza. Now, these two obviously clashed at Silverstone, where Hamilton was given a different penalty to Max Verstappen's grid penalty after that coming together. So where exactly is the difference when these two have collided in the past and last weekend? GPFans explains it to you in this brand new special. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton have been engaged in an intense battle this season and are very evenly matched. That is just setting the tone, it goes without saying, but we need to be clear and concise with everything here. Although the two drivers generally know how far they can push each other, it was feared that things would always go wrong at some point. And indeed, that did happen at the British Grand Prix. Verstappen started the race on pole thanks to an excellent performance in the sprint on Saturday. Remember, it's not a race, even though it kind of is, and got off to a strong start on Sunday. However, Hamilton was starting from second on the grid on Sunday and also made a fantastic start of his own and immediately started to make life difficult for Max Verstappen. It went well for the first few corners, aggressive, competitive driving, and they managed to not make any sort of contact and keep their cars intact, well, until we got to Copse Corner. And then it all went very wrong. Hamilton tapped Verstappen at the fast right-hander, causing the Red Bull driver to fly into the tyre barrier at a 51G collision and, of course, go out of the race. He was then taken to hospital for further checkups. Now, race management immediately announced that they would investigate the incident between the two, after which a decision was soon made. Hamilton was identified as primarily guilty and given a 10-second time penalty. Now, in the end, the time penalty didn't really mean anything at all, as Hamilton eventually managed to win the race. After the Grand Prix, the necessary criticism was levelled at the penalty imposed by the FIA. It was felt that Hamilton should have been punished more severely and should not have taken the win. It was argued that Verstappen could have been seriously injured in the crash and that the penalty did not outweigh the damage to the Red Bull driver's car. Many Formula 1 connoisseurs commented after the race that they felt this would not be the last incident that the two title competitors would have this year. I mean, that again kind of goes without saying, and indeed we had it once more at this weekend's Italian Grand Prix. Things went wrong down at turn 2. Halfway through the race, Hamilton came out of the pits on a fresh set of mediums when he ran into Verstappen, or Verstappen ran into him. It depends what side of the argument you're on. The Red Bull driver held down the accelerator after an iffy pit stop, shall we say, on the previous lap and was gunning down the home straight, while Hamilton was exiting the pit lane right in front of him. The two drivers went wheel to wheel through the second corner and neither of them had any intention of letting the other through. As a result, Verstappen rode up the so-called sausage curb, his car pinged into Hamilton and ended up with the Red Bull on top of Lewis's Mercedes in a really scary incident that could have gone tragically wrong. The end of the race for both drivers. After the race, both of them were sent to the stewards' room to tell their side of the story. Each pointed to the other as the guilty party, after which it was up to the stewards to pass judgment. Based on the statements and images available, the FIA concluded that Verstappen was the primarily culprit party. As a result, he received 2 penalty points on his licence and a 3-place grid penalty for the next Grand Prix in Russia. Now, on social media, there is massive criticism of the race management here as well, because many fans believe that Verstappen was punished more severely in Monza than Hamilton in Silverstone. However, race director Michael Massey disagrees. Now, according to Massey, a 3-place grid penalty is the equivalent to a time penalty. We are, like the FIA and the teams, are generally at least agreed on this. He is quoted by Formula1.nl. Since Verstappen was out of the race and it was therefore impossible to collect a time penalty, he received a grid penalty from race management. If Verstappen could have continued after the crash, a time penalty would have been handed out, as was the case in Silverstone. The situations in Monza and Silverstone are therefore not comparable, according to Massey at least. In this case, both drivers were eliminated. At Silverstone, one driver was out of the race, Verstappen, and the other was able to continue, Hamilton. Since they couldn't continue the race here, you can't give a time penalty because they can't redeem it. Then, as agreed with the teams this year, a grid penalty will be handed out. Massey emphasises that any incident between Verstappen and Hamilton will be treated the same as any other incident. From the perspective of the FIA and stewards, I think we will continue to view each incident as an individual incident. We will continue to do that regardless of whether it is Max and Lewis. Whether there is a pattern depends on your perception and who you support. I think Christian Horner, for example, thinks very differently than Wolff. I am not going with you in those kind of games. We have a really exciting championship between two top drivers, and that's where the focus has to be, said Massey. So we've had the official explanation of what went on at Monza. The penalties have been dished out. Do you think that Max Verstappen should have been given a 10-second time penalty for the next race going into the Russian Grand Prix, or a 3-place grid penalty? Personally, I kind of think the 10-second time penalty at the next race would have been more detrimental than a 3-position penalty on the grid, especially as Red Bull want to change that power unit anyway. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and of course hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with everything we do here at GPFans.